decisive.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wilton County School District Wednesday, February 10th Board Meeting, 2021 at 5:30. The mission of the Wilton Community School District is to provide an education that encourages continual progress, the improvements of one's abilities, expansion of one's interest and knowledge, and the growth of one's character. Joy, would you please call order roll call?
Tim Barrett. Linda Duncan.
Here.
Jeremy Lee.
Here.
Rob Metzger. Tara White.
Here. All right, thank you, Joy. Agenda approval, any additions, changes, or corrections, Mr. Burnett?
None, but I would like to welcome Angela Dan to the board meeting, who was recently hired to replace Stacy at the end of March, and she will be starting on March 1st. So she'll get 4 weeks, whatever March is, 4.5 weeks in the office, and she's going to be attending some of our meetings and whatnot to get the ball rolling. So we're excited to have her. She's a Wilton alum and
Position.
yep, has the business background, and I'm excited that she has a good relationship with Stacy, and I hope that continues. Stacy?
Now, when I come to her for money, me and you.
Yeah, that's right.
She'll warn
Okay,
you.
beware.
She'll warn you about certain employees. But I have no additions or corrections, but I wanted to welcome Angela to the board meeting tonight.
All right, so with that, I did entertain a motion. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, go on to the minutes approval. We will do the January 13th public hearing first.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the January 13th regular meeting.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, the January 27th work session.
Work session?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next, I see public forum.
Yes, Dr. Tammy Place is here tonight to talk about some student assessment work. I have been really proud of her efforts in leading the elementary with the work she's done with the 95% group and everything with iBlock, and she's going to update the board. So kudos for coming tonight, and she deserves a lot of credit for what's been done in elementary. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Is this okay to sit down? It seems really odd.
You can stand up if you want.
I
We
can
just-
do whatever I want, I guess.
Do
Okay.
what you want.
Well, I'll start off by asking, so you've all been to the doctor for your annual checkup, right? You go through that every year. Have your height and your weight and your blood pressure taken, correct? And you know that that's all based on a system, that we can go pretty much any place and the doctors follow a certain system, correct? And then there's that scary moment when your blood pressure might not be the right number. And the doctors have another system to test that out, that they can follow and find the answer. And I'm going to use that analogy tonight because that's what we do. We do here in Iowa, and I especially do here in Wilton Elementary. We follow a system, I'm sure you're familiar with the letters, MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. And I have for you to take notes if you're so interested, and that's what you'll see at the top of the sheet. It is that beautiful triangle, MTSS, and the green is our universal instruction, me and you, so. The green is what everybody receives, that universal core 1 instruction. And then the yellow layer is when your blood pressure is a little bit too high, we maybe need to go in and do some diagnostic work, and we need to fix things a little bit. And that little red one, the third tier, is the blood pressure is just still too darn high, and we need to go in and do a little bit more. And like I said, that's kind of what we do here at school. We have our tiers. And like I said, I just got a little, you can take some notes, because I'm not a Google Slides kind of girl. The first thing that the kids do, and I'm gonna always talk K-6 here. In the fall, in September, we have a system, universal screening with reading. And always, give yourself a little asterisk there, because kindergarten's always a little bit different. So if you have any questions about that, later, let me know. So kind of think about 1st through 6th. The kiddos, and it's online, I don't have a sample for you, it's online, but just imagine a page with text, and the kids read. So that's our universal. We do that 3 times a year. September, we just finished testing in January, we'll do it again late April, early May. So that's our first universal check. The next thing that we do with the kiddos, and I did bring a sample tonight, and again, this is 1st through 6th, we check to see, we call them levels. What level are they at in reading? It's just like the alphabet, there's levels A through Z. We don't expect anybody to hit Z until probably 6th grade, so think of it that way. And it's not a race to see how we can go so fast. It's to look at reading behaviors, how they read, how they decode, can they read an expression, do they understand the idea, things like that. This is, I just grabbed, it's a level up. So this is 3rd grade. We always look at a fiction piece, and we always look at a nonfiction piece. And you can just pass this on, you can take a look and see what the text looks like. And what we do, we have the kiddos read, and we follow along. We take notes, take record, and we also have questions that we ask of the test comprehension. I call that universal because even though we look at different levels for the kids, it's something that everybody does. We do it again in September, we do it in January, we'll do it again at the end of April. So that's another thing. I also this kind of gives you an idea about grade levels or you bet where you can expect kids to be, and so on and so forth. Mr. Burnett mentioned those words, I block. I block is just, it's I's for intervention. And block is because we block off a period of time every single day. You could put that in the universal category as well, because in the fall, we test all the kids, K-6, to see, let me give you an example. Just to see if they understand vowels, syllable patterns, and things like that. I'm going to give you an example of a screener. Again, please know these are all research-based and evidence-based. We're not just going to go willy-nilly with the students. And reassure you of that. This is a screener that all the kiddos do. You bet. You take a look there, that top one. Let's pretend, let's just think 1st grade for now, shall we? Or even better, let's go 2nd grade in the fall. We'll check to see if they can recognize their letters, if they understand vowel sounds, and then we're going to look at these, we call them syllables. I'm not going to call them nonsense words, we'll call them syllables. There we go. Because they appear to be nonsense to us, but keep in mind, any word that's not familiar is a bunch of nonsense to your brain. So that's why, sometimes you're going to hear that word, that term. A lot of times they are syllables. If we hook them up with something else, they're going to make a word that they'll see in the book. So we check to see if the kids can read that. Obviously, and I gave them some too. There's a couple of sentences there, and that gives us an idea about their reading ability. After all the kids are screened, tested, same difference, then we divide them up. And then this is where you can kind of put this in your little tier 2 notes. Then we divide the kids up, and let's just say, for the fun of it, let's just say that, Tim, and I apologize, I forgot your first name, Jesse. Jeremy. I was close, Jeremy. Let's pretend like you two are at the same level, and they're at a different spot. There's gonna be an instructor in this room where you will go and work, there'll be an instructor in a different room where they will go and work, so we call that the walk tomorrow. Everybody in the second grade is gonna be in a group. We also have, if there's kiddos that they're right on target where they should be, we call that the benchmark group. And they have something different to do as well. Again, like I want to always remind you, this is evidence-based work that we follow, very explicit instruction. The beauty of it is, yes, all of our associates and the teachers have all been trained, thank you for that, and Mrs. Austin as well. But you could go in and help instruct as well, because it is very scripted and explicit, so that it doesn't leave anything to chance. So like I said, that, it starts out universally, but then it quickly moves into a tier 2. We follow this continuum. It's something that obviously parents can be aware of too, then you can kind of see. I do want to add in there those, the books that I passed around. That I also have that, you can also include that in tier 2, because the teachers will do that, we just call that informally. At the end of a week, hey, maybe I want to check and see how Linda's doing. So I can do, and we call those rhyming records, or reading records, you're gonna hear them either way. So the teachers can do that informally as well. So that's just another sidebar there. If the kids are at, if somebody's at that little red spot, you know, they've done, we figured out the level where they're reading, we have them in an I-block group, and by the way, I need to back up. The I-block group, the kids receive 15 explicit instructional lessons, 15. And then at the end of those 15 sessions, we screen those kids again. We get that screener back out. Okay, how are we doing? Did we master that skill? Can we move on or not? So there's always that check, ongoing check. We call that a cycle, and we like to get through at least 6 cycles in a year. So we are finishing up our 3rd cycle, about to begin our 4th at school. Let's see, I lost my train of thought. Oh, we're thinking about those little kids who are at that red spot. So they haven't, you know, grasped that skill yet. So we're thinking, hey, something else, we need to do some more diagnostic work. So I did not bring it with me, but I also have 2 other options. I have an option, I have an inventory that I do with a story to see how the comprehension skills are. That's called IRI, Informal Reading Inventory. I also have something, you know, education is all about acronyms, PAST, and it is phonological awareness, which are big words in my land. And I also do that, and that's a one-on-one test as well. And what I would do, and the beauty of this is, I'll throw it out. You just think about it. My word is west. So what's my word? West. I want you to think, we're going to change the, I'm going to take this down for a minute, we're going to change the s to n. So think, what's your new word? Wet. And if you're thinking to yourself, ooh, I'm good with that, that's okay. Because the beauty of phonological awareness, especially at the manipulation level, is there are people of all ages who struggle with that. And the best part of it is anybody, any brain trained to learn how to manipulate sounds. And honestly, again, research and evidence-based reading improves with that. So I do have, like I said, that's another side test. We call that tier 3. And I'm gonna pause there, because like I said, I live this life and I can talk through it really fast and it is overwhelming. I get that. So if you have any questions, or, you know, put an asterisk, email me, call me later too.
I just think it's really great because same thing with math. I mean, we memorized like sight words, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What they used to do, they used to do those sight words. And that's great and all, but then I remember, you know, having classmates as we got older that struggled with things like that. And people now are like, what about the comprehension part of it? It's like, well, you gotta go way back first. You gotta be able to understand the word itself before you're even comprehending what any of it means. So
Yes.
it's really neat to see that process. And obviously, as successful as I've always been, it obviously needed to be there. You know, it's there for a reason. And it's so great that you can catch the kids before they get too far. And it's like, and it's just so overwhelming. When they're younger, you can kind of hone it in a little bit and start from there. I think it just makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, and I apologize for anything I didn't teach you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
No, I haven't seen. I'm going back many times. Oh my God, what I did. Oh, you too, sorry. Oh, jeez. Ooh, yeah, it is
Well,
kind of
the
frightening.
thing was, with those sight words and kids, you know, you learn so differently, that does work for some kids. But
You're right, you're right.
it's interesting to see how many it does not work for, which you thought initially it was.
And I think that's the other part that we all, well, yes, I think we have admitted to it. I'm a teacher because I did okay in school. Very few kids who struggle go on to become teachers because it's such, you know, bad memories. I absolutely agree. And you also see older students who have coping skills. How can we fall through the cracks? How can we hide that we can't read? And yeah, like you said, this pulls that out when they're little and they're ready to learn and, you know, so on and so forth.
I don't think it's that anxiety isn't, not that it's not present, but I don't think they realize that's what it is. It's, oh, we're just learning,
Yeah.
this is how this goes. So it's
Yes.
not that pressure, and you're sitting in class looking forward at what paragraph you have to read aloud, and, you know, sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, you know, how do I pronounce this word?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And counting, let's see.
You're
counting
counting the
third
kids.
paragraph.
Yeah, okay,
Oh,
5 paragraphs, I need to read, I
Yes.
have no idea what anyone else is reading, but you know what I mean. So-
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, we've all got memories. Yes, definitely, most definitely. And you know, and that's the other thing that, and now I'm gonna go off on a side tangent, I gotta be careful about that. You know, but you bring up sight words, and that's where there is a little bit of a struggle, because, go back to that universal screening, that is a test in KN1, and it's called sight words. The bad part of it is, a word is not a sight word until I know it by sight. I have seen Wilton a million times, I don't have to decode it. I know it by sight. But you can't just give kiddos a list of words to memorize, because then when they see it in a book, they can't read it. So that's where some of the testing doesn't always jive with the research. This is interesting, those funky words in that screener that we, you know, tend to call nonsense, that is very, to me anyway, very interesting research on that they know that that's such a huge predictor of reading ability. And no, we did not do that years ago. No, didn't have that, so yeah. Okay, speaking of memorizing, let's talk math. Math has not come along as fast as literacy. In my mind, math is a good decade behind, so they're just catching up. Just now, companies are coming out with stuff. Let's go back to Universal. Again, this is what we do. September and January. And let me pass this out. And again in April. And, you know, I call those reading things running records. Guess what? Math is running records. This is a running record. Sure. I mean, watching, you are looking at the student page, that's what the student sees. And I should also add this, when I was mentioning the universal screening, it's go fast for reading, that is timed. This is not. The screener with the funky words is not timed either. So, you know, that, I just want you to understand that as well. So, like I said, you see the student page, we're gonna go down, answer the questions, and then the more detailed form that I also left out there is, obviously that's your place to mark. The interesting part is inside there on that second page. Like, let's take, let's go down to 10 minus 2. Karen, how did you, 10 minus 2, how did you solve that?
We just memorized it, like honestly.
I know, I hear you, absolutely, yes.
It was
But
just,
now, the beautiful thing is, you will have kids that will say, well, geez, I know that 8 plus 2 equals 10, so, you know, it's 8. They can work their way through it, and, you know, you can, before you go to bed tonight, if you want something to read, you can look at that part too, and understand better all the cool strategies that kids are learning. Let's see, what's another good one there? 14 minus 7, kids should know that's in doubles. They should understand that. 20s, about the teens, like 13 minus 3, understanding teens and their role. Trying to think what else is in there too. But yes, memorization is not there.
We memorized the multiplication table.
You just
Yeah.
memorize. Oh,
We
which
just
I
go down
also.
and go,
yeah.
and then I gotta think about it because it's
Uh-huh.
nothing I can
Yes.
figure out. It's just you gotta get that memorization skills back up and go, oh, that's what it is.
This is, I should probably say this and then run fast, because, yeah, the kids is like, I have to relearn this, because you're right, you know, the bridge 10, and, you know, making, friendly numbers, you know, I didn't know what a friendly number was. That's tries and the tens, and using the number line, and things like number paths, and we could talk a whole nother hour about math, but because that's been my own learning curve. Since math has changed a lot, and I'm here to tell you, please, the next parent that says, oh, that Common Core, no, there's a lot of good, there is a lot of good in the math with Common Core. Teaching kids different strategies, it's a beautiful thing. Also, speaking of universal, this is what else we do, and this is just an example. Obviously, this is our winter screener. There you go there. And depending, obviously, I'm not going to give that to a second grader. Depending on the grade level, they're going to do one of the 4 operations. We give the kids 3 seconds. No, we do not stand there with a timer. We give the kids 3 seconds to work on it. But if it takes a little bit longer, we make note of it and move on. Obviously, fluency is 3 seconds. Since we are a Leader in Need school, we have a school-wide goal, and the teachers have selected math fluency to be the goal, which I know Mrs. Austin has good news about. But that gives you an example of what they do with that fluency screener. So that's that. Now, like I said, math is definitely behind. And so for those kiddos who have the blood pressure a little bit high, we don't quite have as much available to us in an out of the space program. We do have one that we've purchased. I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. But I also use it as the tier 3 as well. So tier 2, tier 3. And keep in mind, tier 2 is numbers. Like you would make a nice tier 2 group. Dara's memorized everything. Yeah. She and I would meet alone. We'd be tier 3 is a one-on-one. Then I could make up for lost time, right? There it is, lost clause. No. Just checking to see if C's on his phone. where they're at. It's all based on standards, K-5. Right now, I have a fourth grader, and he's working on, we're backfilling. He has gaps from second grade. I found out when I gave him that subtraction running record that he couldn't do it. So now he and I meet alone 4 days a week with the Bridges Intervention Program. So like I said, that's the here, but we can use that as tier 2 as well. And that's part of my role. Right now, I currently have five tier 3 kiddos, and I meet with them individually, 15 minutes every single day to meet their needs. Notice I have not mentioned special education services in any of this. Special education, in some places they call it tier 4, but the idea is that kids will get every single layer in the jello there, the green, the yellow, the red, in addition, and then special education would be in addition to all of those as well. So, and of course the idea is to not have to deal with that. But, so, we've talked a million times, we're pretty darn proud of ourselves. The elementary's got it going on. You bring me a kid, and I can tell you by the end of the day, a lot of information and where we can go with instruction. And yeah, I mean, I keep pointing to you guys. But years ago, you looked at little Tara and said, well, she smiles when she says the alphabet, and that, it was a guessing game, it really was. And here, check out this book, what do you think, honey? You don't know I'll teach it to you. And it's not like that anymore. We have a lot of good materials and teachers, it's funny now, we got 4 new students today. And so I right away, hey, do you want me to help you with testing? And a lot of them are like, nope, I want to do it myself. They want to know where those students are at, which is just as great. But anyway, I hope I didn't take up too much time. That's what we got going on at the elementary. Thanks.
Any questions?
That is cool.
It's come a long way. Come a long way. So kudos.
Oh, yeah, we have. We have, haven't we?
Oh, I know.
I tell you.
Yes.
That's cool. And thank you for taking the time to come and
Yeah, thank you.
tell us about it. That's cool. Neat.
And like I said, if you kindergarten is just kind of a different animal, or if you ever have any questions, call me up, you know where I'm at, and there we go.
Thank you.
Last thing I'll say is what's been amazing is, and I know we can't predict a lot of things, but Tammy, would you ever predicted on the math side how much you've learned on the math area? Because you've always, done everything reading, and just how much, like you said, we are 10 years behind, I believe, as a state or nation, however you look at that, but just how much that math has now moved to.
Oh, yes. In story problems, you see, my kids' hearts flutter. And now, now there's a whole system for story problems. And fractions are not as scary. And we remember the old improper fractions. No, we don't say that anymore. And, it's really cool. You'd say like 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. And now we say 4/3, 5/3, 6. We never would have said that. But, think of that. Just to understand that. So I got to tell you, I'm ratting on myself. This is when you don't want me. So I am doing these fluency screeners. Several grade levels have decided that they would like to do it not just 3 times a year, they want a monthly check that blood pressure, right? So I am busy creating them, and I got goofed up. That third grade came to me and said, you don't say 12 divided by 0. Oh, yeah, that's right. I knew that, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah.
And I know.
Yeah, yes, that was the word the teacher used. It said, I know.
Teach math,
That was not in our kindergarten
You
book.
can't have both parts of 0. You can have 0 parts of 12.
Well, there you go. I'm still learning, okay? I promise I
Which
don't
is what
miss-
makes it fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but now I get it.
You're working.
But now, the cool thing is, I know why. See?
Exactly.
I never knew why before.
Yeah, you just saw a number and said 3/4, what does that really mean?
Yeah, or, you know, or move the decimal point. It's like, no, it's not a movable thing. There is a reason. Yeah, and the idea of zero being a placeholder. Yeah, oh, yeah, yep. I'm learning. I probably have to go home and read my math books more trusty.
But, you know,
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks for
All right,
coming.
thank
Stay
you.
well.
So Tammy, when we stay around here long enough, we just see all kinds of changes.
Yeah, I know what.
I think Tammy is the only person that's been here longer than
Oh,
that.
shut up, you.
See?
Hey, and there's Stacy. Bye. See ya.
All right,
Now.
now, Denise was 2 years at the pool, she's been here longer, so.
Oh, that's right.
All right, next, business financial functions, Stacy. If you look at upload number 5, the taxation funds, looking at the receipts, I wanted to point out that under the GER and the ESSER, those are the federal funds for COVID, we are receiving additional funding there. We haven't received any of it yet. I'm not sure exactly, I need to meet with Mr. Burnett, 'cause I'm not sure exactly how much of that we're gonna use this year and how much into the next year, but we did get another $288,000 in federal funding. So that's gonna be a revision in the budget there for next month. I wanted to point that out, in the general fund. And then, down in the management fund on the second page, if you notice under expenditures, insurance deductibles, for actual year to date, you see a negative 206,000. So in January, we finally received payment from the wind claim, Rachel. So our claim was a little over $200,000 for that. And the bill is in the management fund tonight for approval. So they paid everything but our $1,000 deductible. So that is why that is such a huge negative number. And, do I have anything else specific to point out? Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of the taxation funds? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to upload number 6, which is the instructional support levy. We have the revenues at the top, and our budgeted expenditures in the middle, with our expenditures to date at the bottom of the first page, and what's remaining at the top of the second page. Any questions or comments on anything ISB? Upload number 7 would be the self-insurance fund. As always, in the lower left-hand corner is our medical, dental, and vision breakdown. None of the medical funds have been transferred yet from general funds, still sitting there in that payable account. Any questions or comments for self-insurance? Upload number 8 is the Latchkey program. You can see the usage at the top, and then the financials. And we continue to get that grant, so $20,000 year to date, when we thought we were getting 8.
Yeah, it is all.
And so also, I mean, our balance is going up because of that grant, thankfully, because if we didn't have that grant, the balance would be going down considerably because of having to spread the kids apart to have more workers during this time. So any questions on Latchkey? Upload number 9 would be how Latchkey spent their money in the month of January in addition to payroll.
Upload number 10 would be nutrition fund. The first page has the usage for the lunch and breakfast programs. So again, we're showing you if students were paying for free and reduced, how many are eating. Of course, because of the free lunches and our free breakfast, the numbers are up in both programs. But that would be how they would be divided out if they were actually paying students. And then the financials on the second page. And that account continues to grow, and I expect it to grow more than normal because of the reimbursement rate that we're getting for the free program. But as normal at this time of year, you'll start seeing that balance increase anyway, and in June, they have to pay off all the summer contracts, so. But any questions on nutrition, financials? Upload number 11 would be how nutrition funds spent their money in the month of January in addition to payroll. Upload number 12 is the summary for the report on how many kids at the elementary or junior senior high ate breakfast and lunch under the COVID-free program. Upload number 13, first page would be the student activity fund. I believe we have covered the negative balances prior. Joy said today there was no new negative balances. You can see the music and the athletic summaries on the far right-hand corner. Winter canteen is out of the hole now, so at the end of December it was still in the hole with the small concession stands, but that has changed. Top of the second page would be the FFA Enterprise Fund with the farm and the animals, and then our flex spending account with custodial funds. Any questions on any of those funds? And then the next upload would be the period vendor report for all of those funds and how money was spent in the month of January. Upload number 15 is the activity driving report. Again, it's sports only. The only thing that we have under other is we did get a bus stuck one night and 2 drivers had to spend an extra hour going back and picking up kids and delivering them. Then we have a 16A and a 16B. So we added a couple bills today after we had already closed them out. So with the 16A upload, first, at the top of page 8, be all the general fund, bills presented for payment. And then under the management fund, you'll see the service master recovery. So for the first time ever since I've been here, EMC, our insurance carrier, met with Joe Raggett. And because of the nature of the derecho claims, they hired a third-party administrator basically to take care of our claim, and then they negotiated all the prices directly with EMC. So for all the work that was done, instead of paying all the separate vendors, we're paying Service Master Recovery. And then the Geesey roofing, that is the one thing that Joe Raggett took care of that we had towards that claim. So that's a little different than past practice. And then we have a couple of vendors under Fund 31 for the concession lobby project off the high school gym. And then our 1-cent sales tax for Funds 33 and Fund 34. We still have a little bit of Townsend donation in Fund 34 that I'm paying the architects and the project managers out of. And one expenditure for Pepple, and then paying agent fee out of debt service. Are there any questions on any of the taxation fund bills presented for payment? And actually, along with that, you have 16B, which is a couple more invoices for fund number 10. Any questions?
Make a motion to pay the bill.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Stacy. We'll move on to administrative reports, and I see Mrs. Austin is first.
Yeah, I am. New kindergarten and preschool registration, we are on day, let's see, open it February 1st, this is the 10th, so not day 9. And we are at 35 pre-K and 34 kindergartners, which is good. I mean, that's, 9 days.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody, tell them, sign up. We're trying to get it out repeatedly on social media and be able to post it all over everywhere. And thanks to the advocates and the advocates. The piece of paper that's hot off the press, this one, is what Tammy was talking about. Those are our FAFSA scores. Those are our 3 times a year screening, and this is what we're very anxious to look at our women proficient numbers. The fall proficiency in the first column, clear to the left are the number of students, and then in parentheses are the students who we do screen who are ingenuity kids. And when you look at those, that's an interesting, part of this too, but they're still counted as our kids, even though they aren't receiving any of our typical instruction, nor are they receiving any interventions, which for some of them, but it's okay. So she always talked about kindergarten being an anomaly. 80 is the goal. That's why it's in green. Kindergarten is always 80, but it's because they aren't reading yet. So they're doing a lot of letter recognition stuff that is a direct, it doesn't directly affect the rest of the score. So we do a great job lacking kindergarten, but it doesn't necessarily transfer on down, simply because it's a different skill. When you go to first grade, so where they went up 9, just from fall to winter, second grade's up 12. Those 2 scores are our biggest growth. Now, obviously, that's important because they were our lowest scores. We've had the most growth, so that's like kind of a, however, we were really, really, really happy with that growth, and I'll explain that in a second. Third grade up 2, fourth grade up 5, fifth grade up 2, and sixth grade went down 2, which is unfortunately a typical thing from fall to winter, and we're still working on that. We're still breaking that one down, and we haven't broke down our ingenuity kids yet to see what their effect was on that. The reason that growth is very powerful, if you go down to the next chart, it's our winter to winter comparisons across the board. So I've drawn the diagonal for you. So for instance, if we don't count kindergarten, because it's a different test, if you go first to second grade, last year they were 80 in the winter. This year they were 70. So that's a -10, even though we know from the top score, they went up 58 to 70. So we're gaining, we're getting there. I just don't think it's going to take us as long to get where we wanted to be as we thought, based on these scores. Second to third grade, 76 to 70. This is the interesting one. Third grade to fourth grade. If you can third grade this current fourth grade has struggled as a group. They've always been our little group. We've had the most people we've had to send there for interventions. That's been where we put a lot of effort. They actually went from 53 last winter up to 60 this winter. So winter to winter, they really did, they're doing better than they've ever done, which is fantastic. And then fourth grade, fifth grade, 70 to 69, that's okay. Fifth grade to sixth grade, again, we have that sixth grade issue. So then we look across, I think I circled it on yours, to look historical data of winter screening in sixth grade for the last 5 years. And you can kind of see it does fit in with the pattern of where we are. So what this basically tells us, we're still going to continue to do the class-wide intervention in 4th grade because it's working, and they're still behind. 1st grade, we were able, because they made so much gains, to drop the class-wide intervention and just go to the targeted small group work. And then we're digging in 6th grade to figure that out. So that's kind of where we are in the winter. And obviously, as Tammy explained, we worked really, really hard on this. And, you know, it's kind of a cliche right now to follow the science, but that's the change we've made. We follow the research. And it's a tribute to the district because they've sent us so many places and done so much training that we are kind of out in front of this a little bit in my mind. The back of that sheet shows the math, and she talked about the math screening 3 times a year. These are our math fluency goals. Leader and me ask you to set a goal, so we pick the math, and these are the fall to winter. And again, when you look at those, that growth, every grade level just really rocked it.
4th grade looks amazing. They must have liked that COVID.
Yeah, isn't that something?
They need a little extra break.
Yeah, I don't
To
know.
come back strong.
But gosh, we're really happy with it. So we're at 70% where we want it, and 80% is our goal. So, you know, I think we'll meet that.
Always considered.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it isn't luck. You know, I tell, unfortunately, sometimes I use that phrase too much. I'm really, really proud of our elementary and the work we've done. And especially this COVID thing has really highlighted how important I think it is that we are in school and that we're able to do all these things to our kids, because I think we're going to catch them up very quickly. Really, the only other thing I wanted to, again, here we go, the writing professional development. When you look at that paragraph, the 3 days, this girl from Connecticut is coming to be, you know, in our classrooms. That doesn't happen everywhere. So again, that's a tribute to Tammy, who knows all these people by first name, and to you guys for allowing us to spend the money to have it happen. And it's wonderful when they come to us, because she's actually going to be in the classrooms, working with kids, talking to teachers, looking at our scores, and that really makes a difference for us. The 3rd through 6th grade teachers will have their professional development will be delivered by a consultant that used to live in our city, that Tammy knows. She now is in Chicago and works for these big companies that are very, I mean, they're just into that science and research. So continue to be on the cutting edge there. Parent-teacher conferences, we're going to do them virtually again. We hoped we wouldn't have to do that, but we're just not at that place yet. So we'll be sending those links out. The last thing I want to highlight is our book study that we do with the others. So we split our PD into Leader and Me Wednesday, a Math Wednesday, a Reading, Writing Wednesday, and then the other people, the people like our at-risk people, our counselors, our social studies, our co-curricular teachers, they're in the other group. So we lead them in all different kinds of things. And what we're doing right now is a book study that we had Joe Beckman here 2 years ago, I believe. And one of his chapters, we just did chapter 3, it was asking teachers and parents to do an inventory of how much time their kids, a time audit, what their kids were on in technology and what it was for. Obviously in their classroom and you're in technology and it's something that is improving the learning, or you're doing that instead of paper and pencil, that's fine. But if they're messing around on games, you know, that's the question. So when we did the time audit, we found out our kids truly are. The kids who finish work early are on the computers quite a bit, too much. So we're making an adjustment, and one of the things we can do is in study hall, when some kids don't have anything to do, we've created, linking it with Leader and Me, this service learning. We haven't had the high school mentors this year because of COVID, so we're going to do 15 minutes at a time, and of course continuing to follow all of our COVID protocols. But the kids filled out this service project leader application for 5th and 6th grade. I mean, it's hilarious. We're not doing it in 3rd and 4th grade because the age is just too close. So we're sending them pre-K too. And oh my goodness, some of the things they're going to do, it's going to be great. And then the back page I just use as an example, so when they complete their tasks, then they will, when we choose them, then they can put this in their leadership notebook. Because we're going to try at parent-teacher conferences to begin the process of using leadership notebooks. Selected teachers, some of them were not comfortable with it, and selected students are going to use their leadership notebooks during parent-teacher conferences, moving toward a student-led conference. But it's a process, and we're not there yet, and we want everybody to be comfortable, and It's really hit and miss. So, yes, I'm really excited about our kids using their time instead of on the computers to do some sort of service learning and give them back to the littles. I think that's gonna really be good, and it's, we'll see. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Just real quick,
Yes.
just curious, you mentioned the sixth grade, that it's a continuous thing. You know, I mean, you seem to see it.
Yes.
Do you have a feeling on why?
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Yes, because they're tired of doing the test.
Is that?
We have not dug into them yet, because what we have to do is we have to look at, what we'll do is we'll triangulate the kid's score. So if a kid does poorly, we look at our other measures and see if they do poorly on all of them. Chances are, this will be, my guess is, this one, they just get tired of doing it. They've done it 3 times a year forever. And again, a student who looks at those words, I mean, it's a speed thing. And sometimes by 6th grade, when you struggle, and that gets even higher, we know people who are very good readers and they're great comprehending, but they're not fast. Well, this is speed. This is how many words a minute you can read. And you don't, and that's why it's the assessment the state chose, but it doesn't always mesh with what we do. So by 6th grade, but what's important? I mean, it's an indicator. It's a research-based indicator. That's why the state chose it. But there's a lot of slow readers out there who are going to do just fine in life, and even in school. It just takes longer. So we have to really dig into that. And we have always been concentrated on these early kids with the eye blocks. Like by 6th grade, a lot of kids aren't even in eye block anymore. So that's why we're going to move that next year too. We're going to change that schedule a little bit. But I think we're going to find out that they don't triangulate and that they just get tired of doing this. So then we're going to have to motivate them on the test. We're going to have to set goals like we used to with our assessments. Yep. What was your goal? What was your score last time? What is your score going to be this time? But we just simply haven't done that yet because we focused on the younger kids' scores. But now we're kind of to the point where we got to look at that and figure out why that. Because you want your best scores to be at the end because the program builds. So that's your ultimate measure is by the time you go to junior high, are the kids where you want them to be. So that's our next challenge.
Thank you.
Right, yes, thank you, Denise.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to Mr. Snavely, please.
Yeah, I just highlighted a lot of things that we're doing online this year that we normally do in person, from, Mr. Beckley in Science Bowl to Mr. Gephardt, who took over for Mrs. Hetzler this year with the Scholastic Bowl. So they're trying to, record things and send them in, and it's just different. So kudos to them because it's just not the same. But they're trying to make the best of it and give the kids experiences. Even speech, which was supposed to be last Saturday, they had to record their speech and send that in, and I know the first time the camera didn't work, they had to do it over again, and so it's just kind of frustrating, but it is, we are giving the kid the opportunity with, doing the best we can with that, so I highlighted those things that are going on right now in the building. I put a paragraph in there about AIW. Our big focus right now is on student work. Pilot teams worked all day today, we had subs in the building, working through that. Student work is definitely the hardest part of it. So our goal the last few weeks has been to collect implementation data, and hopefully we'll get assessment scores this year to kind of gauge that too. But we do the SIP walkthroughs and listen to it. Myself and Mr. Meyer are doing those. We're trying to collect between 70 and 80 walkthroughs, so that's just going into the classrooms and doing kind of a snapshot with the SIP. The SIP stands for Classroom Implementation Profile. And we just have to pull up the website on our phones, and then we log in, and then we just click and submit. And then it populates on the graphs, and then we can share kind of a snapshot of what we saw with the whole staff. And it's not like individual teachers, it's, whole data. So what we're looking for when we do that is all the things that are around the spirit of the standards, which is higher order thinking, depth of knowledge, student understanding, substantive conversation, and now you have school. That's how we score a lot of our tasks and instruction and student work. So that's what we're doing as far as data collection with that. I put a paragraph in there about hiring. We're in that season now. Edgenuity, we have 41 students in grade 6-12, and I put 6-12 in there because that's how it's divided. It's divided between elementary and 6-12, even though 6th grade is in Mrs. Dawson's building. So we have 41 students currently online, so we dropped that number quite a bit since the beginning of the year, in a total of 184 classes. So I think at our level, those classes, I think it was $40 a piece. So when you take kids off that, you actually save money and things like that too. So that's good to have a lot of those kids back in the building. So other than that, I mentioned Mr. Brun, but hopefully you follow our junior senior high page and saw that press release from KWQC a few weeks ago on that. And then I put in the names of the students that were in that state speech group. They did the one act play. That's the one that went to state. It was almost Maine, but it was a shorter version that they did in the past, if you guys remember that. I think that was last year they did that. So I listed those names just so you know who those people were. And like Mrs. Austin said, we're decided that we're going to do online parent-teacher conferences again. We decided that it went well in the fall, and we're not really in a whole lot different place with that. And then the big thing for me right now is starting to have those discussions around prom and post-prom, what that's going to look like. And we're starting to have those discussions, and we have an event, and that's going to be here before we know as well. So other than that, any questions from me?
You had mentioned last time we talked about the students with Edgenuity, some were really struggling. Have you seen improvement there, or does it be the same?
A few of them came back. And then there's a group that was struggling that just pulled it together at the end. And then there's a group that's just still not engaged in that. So it's probably a third. So a group came back, a group pulled it together, did pretty well at the end just because they weren't well under pressure. And then we still have a certain population that just not engaging, doing well, just because they don't get on and can't manage their time very well. So it's,
So what happens this coming fall then? Say they just didn't do what they were supposed to do, and how does it happen?
yeah, they're behind. I
So
mean,
they stay back, right?
well, we've been having the conversations with them and their parents. You know, like when we do midterm grades, we'll look at those students, and if they're not doing anything, we make calls and just, I don't know, we try to keep parents in the loop. And the fact of the matter is they're going to have to take some engineering classes over the summer. They're going to have to be behind on credits. Some people might not graduate on time. I mean, we do have a certain population that it is going to hurt them, just because if you take initiative to do the online and you don't get online X number of hours out of the day, and you do that for a week or two, all of a sudden you're so backed up that it's just overwhelming. Where do I even start? So we do have some students that are in that predicament. It's just the way it is. So yeah, it's too bad.
All right. Anything else from Mr. Snavely? Because then obviously you can look at the athletic report also. All right, thank you. Next, action items, consent agenda number 1.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, you know, sometimes there's months we have nothing on consent agenda number 1, and then there's this. As you can see, the resignations below, some of the coaching pieces that people have, also Stan with resigning her paraeducator position and assistant high school girls track, take this position. And everybody below there are people that are resigning and qualify for the retirement incentive. So, under the transfer, Mr. Dick Dorman from junior, senior high PE, junior, senior high art. He's been teaching some art classes currently, so it's certainly not been foreign to him. And our two job descriptions with our building secretaries in both the elementary and junior, senior high. So, like Mr. Snavely said, it's just getting all the pieces together for next year. And as Mr. Dorman goes from PE to fill the art, then it opens up PE. And so, you know, fill one, open another. So we'll be busy with the hiring process over the next few weeks. as well Mrs. Austin.
I reluctantly move to approve consent agenda number 1.
I will second that.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda number 2, policy.
Nothing out of the ordinary with special meetings, work sessions, determining quorum.
Probably all Iowa code.
Yep, yep, you know, open meetings laws, closed sessions, et cetera.
Need a motion to approve consent agenda number 2.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, consent agenda number 3.
Yeah, letter A is deleting policy 211.1. Joy and I go over these each month. The verbiage in there with the annual meeting was looking at the books at the end of the fiscal year. Since we've changed the organizational meeting because the board elections are now in November, that doesn't happen and won't happen at the end of the fiscal year. Of course, we go over our financials with you with the August board meeting, but it's not the annual meeting. Okay, so that policy has no relevance. So that's why you take 2 readings, I recommend we delete it. Letter B, is the first reading of policy 211.2, the regular meeting, you can see the verbiage tweak there. Again, not a big deal, but it just reflects practice. C, D, E, F, G, and G are the district employer retirement program qualifiers, and I think the board approved those. We approved Stacy's last year, that's why hers isn't on here. Letter H is our SIAC committee members. We have to have the board approve those. We're looking to do the SIAC this year through a Google Meet. You know, there's certain things we may, again, because of the pandemic, that may be a way to do it every year so more people can join. Because typically the meeting's half hour to 45 minutes, and you get people in here, and it's public, and people can come in and whatnot. So anyway, we're gonna try that this spring. But we need to approve the official committee, but it's obviously open to the community. And then letter I are Chromebook bids for 4th and 5th grade, and then the 7th and 10th grade rotations. Because we received those extra COVID dollars, we're going to utilize some of that money to replace some of our Chromebooks. And so much of school finance is a shell game to some degree. You can spend that money on technology because that's a piece of the, you know, the COVID relief package of having everyone's technology pieces or whatnot. That could save us some money in the one-cent sales tax fund. Or we could replenish that, you know, depending on how that goes. But the nice part is, we can order that now. If we were to put these in later in the spring, they couldn't come in until July 1st out of next year's one-cent sales tax budget money. The backup on the Chromebook ordering has been immense. So now we get the order in early, and they'll be here in time, so we get them rolled out in August. And the recommendation on there is with SHI, we're getting 300 devices for a total of $98,400. Are there any questions on consent agenda number 3?
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, individual action items.
Yeah, as you heard me say, we're gearing up for next year, and that includes all of our agreements that we have with Durant next door and when these need to be approved individually, but you can say I move to approve letter A or B, or you can read them out, it's totally up to you, but it's not a consent agenda. It's a superintendent sharing agreement with Durant, and if we do it, it's annual. Same thing with our human resources sharing agreement, Lana Muller's position, and the transportation director sharing agreement. Each of those 3, we receive operational sharing dollars. So there's incentive money with that, comes along with those 3 positions. Letter D is the elementary band teacher sharing agreement, Mr. Miller. Durant holds the contract, but we utilize Mr. Miller's services here half-time. We do get supplemental weighting for them. They base that on the number of kids that they serve. It's not operational where it's a weighting, it's actually based on the number of kids. Letter E is Spanish teacher sharing agreement, Durant. We utilize one of Durant's Spanish teachers that teaches some of our kids here. And then letter F, I presented a couple board meetings ago about Eastern Iowa Community College's academies. We don't have it here, but some districts, we have board-approved PEPAL, which is the same verbiage as 1 cent sales tax, or in this case, SAFE, okay, the SAFE dollars, 1 cent sales tax. EICC is just paying off a bond, okay, and what they're wanting to do is continue that tax rate between 23 and 25 cents. And there's a vote on that on March 2nd. And that money, if it's continued, would go toward these career academy facilities. Should be, like I said, our kids are gonna be involved with it. I think it'd be a great thing. And EICC has asked all of the schools in the AEA, which is who would benefit, to see if the board would support saying, hey, we'd like to continue that. And so basically it's just a support statement saying continuing that 23 to 25 cents levy rate to put toward those facilities. So will taxes go up if it passes on March 2nd? No. It'll just remain the same. Some districts have passed a voter-approved PEPAL. Like I said, we have the board-approved PEPAL, and that's 33 cents on the dollar. You can do a voter-approved PEPAL for $1.34 extra, and some districts do that for different projects. I know when I was at Tipton, they did that for their bus barn. Some districts have done, for certain projects. And the reason the voter-approved PEPAL sometimes is pursued versus an actual bond is a bond issue takes a supermajority, or 60%, and the voter-approved PEPAL takes 50% to pass. That's why sometimes on smaller projects, they go that route versus going the major bond. Any questions on that? So, the resolution, the only difference about that action item is we have to take a roll call vote. That's just how all resolutions work. And then letter G is the fiscal year 20 district audit. Stacy, do you want to mention anything about that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and approve the other ones, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
Sounds good. So we need to approve those individually. Like I said, you can approve by saying the letter, you can read it out.
Motion to approve action item
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right.
And action, individual action item B.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I move to approve action item C.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Motion to approve individual action item D.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Motion to approve individual action item E.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, that is a roll call vote.
You still, yeah.
We need a motion in a second.
Yep.
All right.
Motion to approve individual action item F.
Second.
Tim Barrett,
Yes.
Linda Duncan,
Yes.
Jeremy Reese,
Yes.
and Tara Wayne.
Yes. All right, Stacy.
Okay, the fiscal year 20 audit, if you go to pages 68, 69, there's a letter that the auditor writes to the board that you can read if you haven't already. And then pages 70 through 73 have a summary of the findings. So on page 70, segregation of duties, we're gonna have that every single year, because even though the number of people that we have in the office seem like a lot to some, it's still not enough for segregation of duties, because we have the same person doing more than one task with accounting. So anyway, we talk about that every year. If you look on page 71, under number 4, remember this is from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 20. So we did business with 2 board members, and that has to be noted. And so that's talked about there. And then on page 72, with under the board minutes and publishing the bills, I have never published the bills for the non-taxation funds. Technically, you're supposed to. That's why we give you the detailed bills at every board meeting for all the funds that aren't taxation funds, and we publish in the paper all the taxation funds. And so we talk about that every year at the audit. And so, you know, everything we do at the meeting is public, so those are public for people to see as well. And that's the only thing on that page. So everything else was status quo. Those were just basically the things that jumped out there. And then on the last page, number 73, number 14, where it talks about the deficit balance, it's kind of ridiculous. We have to do this new thing in these last few years where we have to assume that the pension liabilities, which is IPERS, which the school is never going to pay, we have to go through and those get figured for all of the funds that have payroll. And I believe that it was in the nutrition fund, it had an unrestricted negative balance due to potential pension liabilities and deferred inflows that we could have if we had to pay them, which we're never going to have to pay them. So, but things have changed drastically in 35 years with the audits. So, and to understand a lot of this stuff, you need to be a CPA. So it gets, that part of it gets worse every year, I think. But those were the findings, the summary, and everything else is in the other 67 pages, if you want to read that. So,
Or not.
but no major findings and no discrepancy with finances, so.
We used to get a copy of it. And we could, you know, have
Tony
reading.
Heard
I know.
was a CPA, so
Yes,
he would quiz Stacy, but
He was
Oh, you
interested
have
in
a
reading
copy,
it.
you just have a digital copy.
yeah, we did.
Now we're
Now, it used to be the hard
Here,
copy.
you used to get a hard copy.
You're correct.
Here's how thick the
Yes.
copy is,
Yes.
Linda. This is the
Yeah.
copy.
I know. See, I used to have some of those copies and all my
You
stuff
had the
that I
maroon
saved.
covers.
All right, so I entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year district audit.
I move to approve the fiscal year 20 district audit.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. All right, informational
Yes.
discussion items.
You see the 3 hirings there below for some coaching positions, associate position, and then Ms. Dan for the SBO position. Under maintenance, the building project's coming along. We're waiting on those 2 windows on the top part, because that's kind of an angle. So the special cut, they had some issues with getting that to fit right, so that's the hold up with that. Painting's done, still on track to be done here this spring. So, like I said, I know we were up it a couple weeks ago, so let's just keep moving forward with that. A lot of positions to fill this spring, one of them being Joe Ragus's. So I'd like to have a maintenance committee sometime in March, and I'd also like to, if there's anyone interested in serving on that hiring committee, by all means, I'd be interested in having someone serve on that. All these positions of the department heads, SBO, maintenance, I mean, those are critical positions to the district, and I certainly appreciate what Stacy and Joel both done in those roles, and we've had a lot of success here. They've been a big part of that team that's helped us get there. Let's see, the pool board, Linda, what do you have for us this month or 10?
Last night, we needed better internet, phone system. We talked about working on really that's the main thing
That
we
was
did
the
last
main
night.
thing.
Yeah.
But we still, of course, we're getting quotes for, we're gonna do the, drain the pool and do all that, and regrouting and all that stuff. That'll be in May, May?
Shut down, yeah.
And then we'll do the structural, and we're getting quotes and all that stuff, so they can do all that at one time. And we can get that building, what it needs
Yeah.
to do. And for the first time, Sarn said, all is good and full, and he really meant it. Usually he's got a little, which he's there every day, and he is good about, you know, this is here, this is, you know, something that has sat there for a week, so I think we've got it.
There was nothing to talk about, like even.
Yes,
so it's
yes,
not-
so that was good. Yep, yep, so we had a good meeting.
Good. Legislatively, as far as the SSA, which is a level growth, the Senate's at 2.25, and the governor and the House is at 2.5%. So we'll see where we land, you know, between those two. Otherwise, there's all kinds of chatter about different bills, from changing things with school permits to requiring cursive proficiency by third grade to you name it. So vouchers are still in play. So a lot of things to be hammered out over the next few weeks, so we'll see where we're at. I talk to Bobby Kaufman at least once a week on different things, to try to share, hey, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, please don't vote for this, please support this. So, anyway, that's where we're at with that. We have a work session 2 weeks from tonight at 5, and then at 6 o'clock, we're going to have our first interest-based problem-solving session. And we're going to do that right after our work session. It's going to be Google Meet.
Okay.
So with that, and then WEA. And the first time we meet, it's really just talking about the process, looking where we're at. We know our insurance increase is going to be 1% until we know what the SSA is. We really can't dive into the nuts and bolts until we know what does our money look like for next year. So we'll kick off that process. Otherwise, you know, today is February 10th, and I think back 2 months ago, which we were just, you know, short of 10 or 12 days getting out for Christmas break. 2 months from now, we're at April 10th, which means we'll be about 6 weeks to graduation at that point. So we're rolling. I mean, it is going fast, and of course, the weather has been a challenge over the last couple of weeks. And we will be in school this Friday. That's when we're building snow days. We have 2 at the end of the school year, which puts us, I believe, at Thursday, May 27th is the last student day currently. Maybe we'll just take it a day at a time.
I think it's good we don't have school on Monday, because Sunday night is supposed to be brutal, brutal.
They say the
brutal,
coldest
so-
overnight low of the year is Sunday night into Monday morning. That's
so-
what they say. But let's hope that is the coldest.
And then we can move on, yes.
Holy smokes. So, yeah, but that's all I have. There's extra ice cream back there. Take some, and Jeremy will probably finish the rest.
I think Amy forgot her books.
Oh,
you got a book?
she did.
Come on, the food stuff.
You may know.
So excited.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Oh, sorry. All those in favor, please
I move to adjourn.
indicate by saying aye.